This is so exciting. It's the month of love, okay? If you don't know why we're saying it's the month of love, then maybe you need to come closer to the TVs because this might be a conversation for you to expand and explore Valentine's Day, which is coming up, and all of the romance, all of the relationship questions that come up as a result. Now, those of us who are in relationships and looking for strategies on how to solidify the relationships, we've got dating coach and relationship expert Leah Sifo here to chat to us about some of the things that you need to do in the early stages of relationships. Now, those of us who are not in relationships can also come a little bit closer as we discuss some strategies to keep those early moments in relationships healthy. Leah, it's great to have you here.
It's lovely to be here.
All right, so let's start at the very, very beginning. Boy meets girl, boy meets boy, girl meets girl, whatever the situation is, they vibe, they talk. And then the question comes up, so what are we? It's become a little bit of a meme in social media, but what's the healthy way to start solidifying what you are as two people in relationship?
I think it depends how far into the dating process you are. You know, in the beginning, don't get too heavy too fast. You're still learning about each other. You're still exploring what this is, and that includes understanding what your boundaries are. As you start getting a bit clearer on that, you can start saying, do we want to go into monogamy? Do we want to be in committed a relationship here? Is this open? So, you know, people will say, I don't want to label something, but I think it's important to, because both people need to know where they stand, and people don't want to discuss their big expectations early on, but that's a problem, because then there's hidden expectation of maybe I want something very committed, but you want something very open, and we're not discussing it. So what are we is an important discussion of, is this just fun for you? Are we just exploring? Or are you looking for something that's a bit more committed? Then I need to know how far I'm meeting you.
And it's very interesting because at that point, you're kind of setting yourself up either for success or failure.
Absolutely.
Because one partner often holds back what their desires are because they just kind of want to be in this relationship.
And they want to tell the other person what they want to hear.
Yes.
This is what happens when you first start dating, is you compromise on the small stuff because, you know, you want this to work. You like this person, you're going to tell them whatever you think they want to hear to stay interested, but are you telling them the truth? And it's a problem if you're lying about the fact that you want something more serious, and they say they're casual, and you go, okay, no, I'm also casual, that's fine. You are digging a big hole for yourself because 3 weeks later, while they're dating other people, you're getting attached and you're not telling them what is going on. So you've got to be clear from the start.
Really, really painful stuff potentially, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to open up the phone lines and give you a chance as our TMS viewers to ask Leah anything that you would like to ask about relationships, about where you are in your relationship currently. We've got Leah here, and so let's use this time to have your questions answered by the experts. So the number's on the screen right now. In discovering what as a couple you would like, what are some of the important questions to bring to the fore?
When you've made the commitment and you want to start moving forward into the relationship.
Sure.
So I think for me, discussing non-negotiables and limits is a very important start. Where are my boundaries? What is it that I want? What is it that I don't want? As the relationship starts getting more serious, you want to be talking about, you know, the bigger stuff. You know, what are your expectations of me? What do you need to feel loved by me? What are your needs? What are your dreams, your hopes, your visions for where your life is going? I think the more serious a relationship gets, it's important to have the financial conversation. If you're getting committed with each other, are you in any debt? What are your financial goals? What is your spending habits? Because this is a big one I see creep up, is the undiscussed debt that then becomes a problem into the relationship. So that's important. And also discussing sex and intimacy. What does that mean for you? People treat it like a taboo subject, but it's really important.
I mean, that boundary conversation is interesting because it's in the little things and the big things. I mean, we see on social media people talk about, you know, don't phone me 5 times a day, or don't text me, or don't expect. That's a boundary conversation. That's an intimacy conversation, isn't it?
It's definitely a boundary conversation. Like, I've got limited capacity in my day of how much I can show up. And when I'm at work, I'm at work. That's where my energy is. I can't be answering endless WhatsApps. So I'm not answering because I don't like you or I don't love you. It's just my focus is elsewhere. So you've got to have discussions around boundaries with personal space, boundaries with family, boundaries with social life, boundaries with your physical body. You know, they're important, and you're right, it's the small stuff.
And it's interesting because it feels as if one as a person needs to know oneself and establish for oneself, okay, this is what I'm comfortable with before you even get into a relationship.
And that sounds really great, and it would be brilliant if everybody could do that, but it's sometimes only in the moment when something is happening that you feel a real discomfort in your body to go, something right now doesn't feel okay for me.
Course.
And that's when you have to say to your partner, something right now is bringing up a discomfort in me. Can we talk about that? Because I've got to figure out what it is so I can teach you, you know?
Yeah.
So in the moment it's hard because people just shut that stuff down and ignore it.
But that's interesting because as you're feeling the discomfort and you don't quite know what to do with it, there's potential for a fight as opposed to a discussion. So how do you facilitate that so that your relationship has, I mean, even if it is an argument or something that feels uncomfortable, but is a healthy conversation?
I think it's all the wounds from previous relationships make people very defensive.
Yeah.
So if they think something's uncomfortable, they don't want to think it's their fault. They don't want to think they've done something wrong again, like they did in their last relationship. So people just want to check out of those conversations, which is not okay. So if you are on the receiving end of your partner saying to you, I'm not okay right now, something is uncomfortable, just take a breath. The tendency is to want to go, well, you know, I'm running away, but just move.
Or that's just who I am. Or that's how I've always been. Yeah.
Or this is your stuff.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with me. Well, it does, because you are in relationship. You're relating in this moment. So it's moving into as opposed to away from, and going, what do you need from me right now? Just tell me what you're feeling. I'm listening. Let me hear what's going on for you so we can work through this together.
Okay, so the phone line is open. You can send us your voice notes and your WhatsApp now. We're talking to Lisi for all about relationships. And it sounds like in this segment, we've really just highlighted boundaries in relationships and excellence in communication, or at least trying our best to move into a healthy space of communication, because that's what they always say. Relationships is communication. But that doesn't really mean endlessly just chatting and talking.
No, it's the quality of the communication that's going on. And it's also identifying the type of communication with the person that you're speaking to.
What do you mean?
So I've just recently published a book called That's Not What I Meant, and it's a guide to understanding communication systems. So there are 4 different communication systems, and each person in their own system, they want a particular vocabulary, they want a particular tone of voice, they're looking for particular body language. There's a way that they handle conflict, there's a way that they prefer communication face-to-face, or written, or bullet-pointed, or big stories. You've got to learn how the other person receives communication. So if you're a very big talker, but they're a very bullet point kind of person, there's going to be a disconnect. If you're just getting to the bottom line and not giving them the space to express themselves, there's going to be a disconnect. So it's the quality of the communication and not sugarcoating. Everybody sugarcoats. So by the time you get to the truth, they're not listening anymore, because they've been so, you know, they've been lost in the whole lead up to the communication. So, and then you think you've now said what you need to say, and they haven't heard you. And then you have a fight later on, and they go, but I told you this. And you'll go, but you never said this to me before. So you've got to be very specific about how you communicate. And that, if it's done well, won't lead to a conflict.
Amazing. Lisi is joining us for another segment, and your voice notes coming up after this break.